silly, warm, witty, independent, imperfect, tempestuous thespian, 30, seeks communicative man who likes dogs. That was the ad I put in the paper for a boyfriend back in 1990. Before the internet was a big deal, and certainly before online dating was even a thing. It was the LA Weekly, and I had given up trying to meet men the traditional way because I didn't really frequent bars. And I had recently returned to college after a 10-year finding myself hiatus, so all the boys there were way too young. My job was at a private school where all the men there were married. The ad proved to be a winner in the sense that I had 80 first dates over the course of 3 months. None of which went on to the second date. Mostly, I spent way too much money on gas because in LA, no one lives near anyone else, so every date was miles away. I had all but given up, but decided to take a chance with Brian, because at least he was geographically desirable, living only 8 miles away. Back in those days, the way the personalized worked is that they would give me a secure voicemail box where suitors could leave a message with their number, and I could listen and decide whether or not to call them back. I found it interesting how many men actually left multiple messages, hoping they could convince me to call them. One gentleman, and I use the term generously, actually left 10 messages, growing more and more aggressive with each voicemail. His final message was akin to a threat, but basically told me where to go and that I wasn't good enough for him. But I digress. Back to geographically desirable Brian. Over the course of a week, we spoke on the phone. Remember actually talking on the phone? We spoke on the phone for 6 hours about everything. But mostly, we laughed. Now, I've always been funny. I grew up in a somewhat dysfunctional, toxic family, and humor was the way I could diffuse the situation. I'm more often than not the funniest person in the room, which is frankly exhausting. So, to come across someone who could actually make me laugh was an absolute delight. And he made me laugh. We made each other laugh. Eventually, we agreed to meet for a date, and Brian said, "I'm not a traditionalist. I like to break the mold. I don't do things like other guys. We won't do something normal like dinner and a movie." "Oh no," said I. "No, we're going to really shake things up. We'll do a movie, then dinner." My kind of humor. My kind of guy. So, we agreed to see Postcards from the Edge and then go for Mexican. We agreed on a time and a place. And then the big awkward moment came. Okay. I have struggled with my weight and body image since I was 8 years old. I mean, really struggled. Also where the humor came in. With all of my other pre-first date conversations, the topic of who you look like came up early on. For many of them, it was their very first question. But with Brian, the topic had never come up. Remember, this was an ad in the personal section of a free newspaper, so no pictures. But here we are setting up logistics for our first meeting, and we need to find each other, right? So just before we hang up, I asked him, "Wait, don't you want to know what I look like?" Without skipping a beat, he says, "Oh, I'll know you." Just like that. My heart melted. And guess what? We did know each other immediately. I guess our souls knew each other in the movie theater parking lot. And that's the first time I fell in love. You know, he kept my personals ad. We still have it. A tiny clipping out of the paper, kept ever so carefully in our safe deposit box. And at our wedding, we had 8 tables. And Brian decided, rather than just number the tables, we should name each table one of the adjectives in my ad. Of course, we put ourselves at the imperfect table, not to offend any of our other guests. There's nothing imperfect about this love of mine, because here I am, writing this on a balcony overlooking the Mediterranean Sea on the Amalfi Coast, celebrating 30 years of marriage to the man who knew my soul across the parking lot of the Hastings Ranch movie theater in Pasadena, California.